Good morning. It's Ali Duzette, and today is day 15 of our Mercury Retrograde series. Today, vulnerability wounds are probably going to be showing up because Venus and Mercury are hanging out together, and that Mercury retrograde is going to drag up our old issues around stuff. And Venus in Scorpio can often have to do with I mean, themes that might come up right now might be like abuse suffered as a child, if you've experienced any sexual abuse, um, anything like that. There's a chance that those things might be coming up to the surface today for processing. We also have this thing as part of a major trine between Mercury and Venus and Jupiter and Saturn, which has been a big theme of this whole Mercury retrograde. You've heard me mention it several times. But there really is this call to pause and like pause our expansion and really focus on the restricting consequences of past actions, both ours and other people's past actions. So to me, Venus in Scorpio a lot of times has to do with the trauma that we have incurred through our own vulnerability. Venus is the feminine planet and she is very vulnerable, which means that she is uniquely at risk of being extra impacted by the decisions of other people. Um, Feminine energy simply is more impacted by other people's decisions than masculine energy. And so, this placement here today, I'm thinking a lot of us are probably going to have things come up where we realize where we've been taken advantage of, where other people hurt us just because they could, where other people's decisions impacted us maybe unfairly or it felt unfair and we felt like we had no control over it, but we still have to pay the price for what other people have done. And this will probably show up in various different arenas in our lives. Can show up in the workplace, it can show up at home, it can show up in our educational situations, whatever. There's a whole different bunch of ways that this kind of energy can show up. And today is just a day that we're going to have to pause and consider it. And this is a time when the consequences of those kinds of actions are going to expand and start coming forward. So I wanted to recommend that we scribble today. When you have very deep stuff, and Scorpio's the deepest water sign, it's deep, 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 and it can be uncomfortable. When you have stuff coming up that's uncomfortable to think about or remember, I love using scribbling as a tool to process it. And how to do that is you imagine the big, heavy feelings that you feel, and you gather them all up into one giant blob of feeling, and then you smash that blob into dust with an imaginary hammer. And then when the pile is dust, then you divide the dust into little groups of a couple of minutes worth. So you say, this is my 15-minute pile. And it might be like 25 15-minute piles. But then what you do is you take one pile and you take out a crayon or a pen, pencil, whatever. I like crayons because they don't damage my table like a pen would if I really scribbled hard into the paper. But you imagine all of that dust of feelings go through your arm, into your hand, into the crayon or whatever you're scribbling with, and then you scribble, scribble, scribble on the paper. You can scribble through numerous pages of paper. I like to do it setting a timer. Like the 15 minutes, like if I separated my blob of feelings into 15-minute segments, then I like to set the timer for 15 minutes and just scribble until the timer's up. And then at the very end, so as you scribble, you'll feel your feelings coming up and out of you. And then at the very end, your hand should naturally make a zero shape that feels empty, and you will feel empty. You will feel like you took out the trash. If it doesn't do that, you personally force the zero at the end of the timer and imagine it working like taking out the trash, and that should work as well. But we do it this way because if you have a big thing, I mean, if you want to say, I'm going to scribble out my lifetime of childhood abuse, like, okay, well, that's like 900 hours of scribbling or something. And like, if you start dealing with that, it's just going to cause you problems. And like, you can't scribble 900 hours in a row, but you can scribble for 5 minutes a day for a year, or whatever, and do it that way. So do not scribble on something very big unless you have smashed up the feelings and and divided them into very small portions. And then you just do a little bit at a time until it gets scribbled out. But you will feel different if you do this exercise. And if you go on YouTube and search Ali Doucette scribbling, I have a whole tutorial on it. And so that tutorial is worth watching. But this, I just gave you the main ideas of it. So you can just do this. I actually wrote a book about scribbling also. It's called The Scribbling Solution and it's on Amazon. And I think it is worth it. It's, well, obviously that's why I wrote it, but it kind of digs deep into this technique and all the different ways that you can use it. And it tells a lot of stories of people's experiences with it. So I recommend doing some scribbling today on any big feelings of having been taken advantage of having your life unfairly in a bad place because of other people's decisions. Those are going to probably be big feelings today, tomorrow also. You can also journal about all of this stuff. If a session comes to your mind from my website that might be helpful, I would recommend that. The big message is that transits like this happen for us, not to us. And the more that we can process our deepest pains, the easier our whole lives become. So it is worth it to face these dark, hard feelings because when we get them out of our bodies, we feel so much better. And that is the point. That is the point. It frees us up to be our best selves, to move forward in faith and like peace instead of stress. And that is always worth it. Recommended sessions for today: healing from sexual abuse, releasing grief, and the betrayal session. I hope you can see how all of those would really relate to the transits of the day. So ask your body if you need any of those. Go to my website and check them out if you want to. Otherwise, I will see you here tomorrow, and I hope that you have a good day.